to talk about interview.
Here we go. Before we get too far into it, I feel like I have to say this in case anybody's watching this on YouTube. I know my face looks like this, and it was
Whatever do
intentional.
you mean?
And it does hurt to laugh, so I am excited about tonight since I laugh so much. But yes, just in case anybody sees it on YouTube and has questions.
You know, I wouldn't have questioned a thing except for the color of your neck.
I know, look
Like
how pale
if
it is.
your neck was red as well, yeah, no, I honestly wouldn't question a thing, but there's clearly a discoloration happening.
You're like, that's just your new skin color.
She sent me a
That's
picture of
you.
it today, and I was just like, oh, I was like, did that hurt?
Oh my
When you
God.
fell from heaven. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing episode 6, which is a goodie, and Chanel just finished it earlier today, which cracks me up because
Mm-hmm.
we can go straight into it without hearing her reactions, except for what the fuck or whatever
Mm-hmm.
you sent us. He's back. Um, it's
Laughing.
so good. I feel like so much of episode 6 gets overshadowed by the fact that Lestat's back.
Well, that's all that matters. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I okay, so top of episode 6, Daniel, and I didn't actually rewatch this in prep, so Chanel's gonna have to remind me, but Daniel is again at the restaurant. Help, I'm still at the restaurant. Uh and talking to the vampire CIA.
Mhm.
Um and and yeah, I love this character that James Kirk plays because
That's funny.
he's got so much, there's so much in the books to work with for him, but like I think I've heard like rumors that like it's really good that they cast a young actor who has some age makeup on. Like James Kirk has like a little gray in his hair and like some age makeup on when he's playing Raglan James right now, and it's like going to be only helpful to possibly flash back with him, which is kind of how I feel about Luke Brandon Field playing young Daniel Malloy, because that actor is like 35 but he's playing 21, 21, and like it's just going to be fun to watch him, like he can play 20, another 20 years of Daniel's life essentially, instead of trying to get Eric Bogosian to age down 20 years. They can age
Mhm.
Luke up 20 years. And I just think that I'm just excited. Anyways, those are my behind the scenes. That's what you missed on Glee. But yeah, there's some really interesting tension with Armand and Louis at the
mm-hmm.
top, talking about the paintings and how to redecorate their house. And what I love is that I feel like you get a sense that this is all their life is just like talking about how to redecorate the house.
Over and over and over
Yeah,
and
just
over.
to like
Just
distract.
yeah. And that's it's very sad, but like Louis is finally like biting back a little bit too, and like they haven't. What I think was interesting is the end of episode 5, all 3 of them know that there was an issue, something's been revealed,
Mhm.
but we're all gonna ignore it.
Mhm. I know.
The
um
healthy response.
yeah, which is really funny to me. And there's this great kind of reveal that real Rashid, is quite possibly working alongside the vampire CIA. Um, and
Yeah.
that's such a good, like there's so many questions about that too, because you're
He's
like,
lying. He's lying.
yeah, but also like if Armand and Louis can read your mind, like what, like, so I think from what I understand of the lore is that Talamasca agents are generally good psychics, or can like are particularly good at blocking thoughts, like, you know, as a human, like human powers, but a little bit of supernatural thrown in if you're a psychic. And so it's like that might be explored, because like how can you just like exist in Armand and Louis's house? Well, it was so cute.
Pop out of nowhere.
The baby bopped in. So yeah, what else? I feel like episode 6 is so wild because there's so much.
There is so much. No, we can. I want to talk about Rashid because
Yeah.
it also goes into so like Rashid goes to the bathroom,
Yeah.
leaves Daniel alone with Raglan, and you're like, okay, fine. Like they get to talk for a little bit or whatever. But then when they come back to the apartment, Armand, and this was kind of like an interesting moment in the interview. I think he was trying to deflect because he was kind of like kind of getting caught out or called out or whatever. And I don't know if he maybe picked up on something in Rashid's mind or was just or Daniel's mind or whatever it was, but he quickly deflects and asks Rashid, like, did something happen at dinner? Did you leave Daniel alone? Right. And then this is when we find out that Rashid lies and says, like, you know, no, I didn't leave him alone. He went to the bathroom. I thought, and maybe that actually happened. We didn't see it, but maybe Daniel did go to the bathroom. Maybe he did follow him. But like neither him nor Daniel mentions the fact that Rashid went to the bathroom and Daniel didn't go. Like, so like you said, it kind of just brings to mind like, why did Rashid lie? Like, what's going on? Is he working with the Talmasker? Like, what, you know?
Yeah.
And then another thing which I'm still kind of puzzling over is when Raglan was like, I wrote this down. He wrote, "You're scared of Armand when you should be scared of the other one." And
that's one of my favorite lines from the whole show.
At first, I thought, I was like, oh, Louis? Like, how crazy. Be scared of Louis. I guess we, you know, talked about his temper. And now I'm like, Lestat?
I know. It's
like,
a really
what other one?
It's a really interesting, and I'd be interested to like come back to this when we're done with the season, because it is I feel like we don't have an answer to what Raglan's talking about, but like we can also look through the like look between the lines a little bit, read between the lines, because like from a very basic standpoint, like Louis is the one that attacked you and almost killed you in San Francisco. Armand did like try to like get him to ask for death and stuff and get him to take death, but like Louis is the vicious killer when provoked. And you know, and there might be more to like Raglan, you know, knowing more information about stuff. And I just think, yeah, that's such a fascinating line. And I remember I wasn't watching the show back when they were teasing the season 2 trailers, but they had they had this beautiful trailer put together and that line was in it, and everyone went in wild trying to figure out who he's talking about, like what, you know, and stuff. And it's like, maybe he is just talking about Louis. Like, it's just such a it's such a mind fuck.
But he could also be talking about Lestat because Daniel doesn't know Lestat. Like, he could be the more dangerous one out of all 3 of them. You know, it's like he's this, you know, enigma that he's obviously learning about through interviews. You know, it's like we really don't. Yeah, it's very much up to, I feel like, interpretation. But so I thought that was
it's really it's crazy. It drives me wild. I'm like, tell me what you mean. But another thing that I love, and I think this is something for after the season, is like, why did Armand even like pause conversation and have to ask Rashid the question? Like, why can't he read Daniel? Why didn't he decide to read Daniel's mind to get his answer? And or Rashid's mind for that matter. And also all this bullshit that Daniel's doing on his laptop, fiddling away, looking up the theater that burns down and then,
Yeah.
and things like that. And it's like, you're not taking a peek to see what he's up to. And so I have theories about why. And it could be, and we've seen pieces of it, like it could be that like Armand had edited Daniel's memory, with the events of episode 5, and maybe it's a matter of like he shouldn't like return to the scene of the crime, or else like Daniel will, like, it'll unravel his brain more, so it could be that Armand can't safely look inside Daniel's head for the answer, and then he can't read Rashid because Rashid is an agent, like it's just very funny, like, problem to have from a narrative standpoint. Like, what do you mean they're vampires? Read their minds.
Yeah, like,
yeah,
how do they not know what's going on?
exactly. So that's something that I'm interested to see answered or hinted in the next seasons. Yeah.
Yes. Already,
Yeah.
and that's like just the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, what I love, a huge part of this episode is Madeline and Claudia. And I just love them. I just Madeline is so fascinating. Especially just seeing her life flash through Louis's eyes too. And like, and seeing what she's endured. And also there's just that gorgeous scene with her and Armand talking in French. Like, I couldn't believe that she's a French actress. But I know that Assad was really like nervous about all the French he had to do, because he did like full French scenes in episode 3 with the Lestat flashback, and then he had this full French scene with the French actress. But
I
it's
thought he
just
did
like,
good, but what do I
yeah,
know?
I know, right? I'm like, he looked good, he sounded
Oh,
good.
he sounds so good.
I love him. And like, it's just a really interesting scene. And Louis, what I've been meaning to do is rewatch the show and maybe someone on YouTube's done this for us, in chronological order, like the earliest flashback, start with the Lestat and Armand flashback, and like, of course they're tainted by like whose POV they're telling, but like episode 5, the previous episode, really like smacks in the middle of this story. And I feel like when we return to Louis in Paris in episode 6, like there's a thread that I have trouble following, because he's like, even Claudia says to him like, you're harder, there's something about you've changed, you're harder, and but you got to give up something to get something. And it's like, I think Louis gone through stuff, but like the last time we saw him in Paris was when he decided to enter into, like, fully commit himself to a partnership to a companionship with Armand. And by doing that, also like beginning a little bit of a BDSM relationship with him implied. And so it's like, and Louis having to take on the dominant role for the first time since he was a pimp.
Yeah.
Because like,
And
Lestat didn't need him to take on that role.
yes,
You know,
he
like that
was
wasn't
submissive in that.
Yeah. He got to be taken care of, is really how I see it. And like, yes, submissive possibly, but like he got to be treasured and taken care of, and and my little pillow princess, like
Yeah, but that's funny that you said that because I didn't realize not only did Claudia say that, but I also was just like, I was like, Louis is definitely the dominant one, the the one taking care of Armand in this relationship, like
Mm.
with Pitt. I could tell not only like by like his actions, but his words, everything he was saying. What was one of he said, Armand is mine.
Yeah.
Right when Claudia says, you know, you know, what should we go?
She was like,
Lestat,
first
you
you
have
were
list.
Lestats, and now
First you
you're
were Lestat's,
Armand's.
now you're Armand's, and he's like, no, Armand is mine.
Yeah.
He specifically changed that wording, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, very interesting, like about
Yeah.
just their dynamics, and then also
Are you gonna say
Say
my
it.
favorite line?
My
When
favorite
he-
line also.
you want me to quote it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clothes off, face down in the coffin.
I like I wish you could have seen my face when I watched that
Yes.
for the first time. I was just like, what?
I
Literally.
and like you guys know, I watch people watch this show all the time. I watch strangers watch this show, and like it doesn't matter, gay, straight, man, woman, non-binary, doesn't matter. Every person goes, "Ah." Like every person go, like I've seen the gays be like, Louis. Like it takes you so by surprise, and it is,
Yes.
and
He
it's
says it so
like,
confidently too. Like when it's
I
said, it's just like so
know.
powerful without it being like, yeah.
Well, and it's one thing to be like, clothes off, you can read them to me while I fuck you, but face down. I'm like, oh, okay, I have a lot more specifics going on right now than I did in the Lestat relationship.
Yes.
Because there was missionary that we saw in the Lestat relationship, but that doesn't mean that there was intercourse happening at that moment. So it's like Pillow Princess Louis, that's what. But like, but I'm like, I have thoughts and ideas, and fan fiction helps everyone get through our shared experiences together. But it really, it just clarify, it just gives you so many thoughts and headcanons, and like, okay, so if that, then that, and if not that, then not that, and like and
Yeah.
I just adore it. It's such a shocking, it's such a deliciously shocking thing to say.
I love it.
So good. But it also, it's so telling of what their relationship is. I mean, they're at his work, right? Because Louis, this isn't Louis's coven. It's not, he doesn't work there. And it is the ultimate show of power, not only just to be at their work, but obviously in a sexual, intimate way, with, their partners. And so, yeah, like you said, this is a new roles for both of them, I feel like, right? Before, you had kind of talked, they were kind of going back and forth on, I'm leading, now you're leading, and so it's very different now.
Yeah. Well, and it also, I think we might have talked about this with episode 4. It's like it wasn't that long ago, but I'm like, that was years ago that we talked about episode 4. But like Armand is also re-experiencing his traumatic past by allowing, by falling into this role again, and whether that's healing or not is not for me or anyone to say, but he's, he used to be gifted to people, he used to work in a brothel there, and of course then there's just this interesting dynamic that Louis used to own brothels, and and it's like, I don't think that's what the show is specifically saying. I think it's a texture that's being added on top of all of it. but like at the same time, like we see with episode 5, like Armand still has the power.
Yeah.
Like Louis has the emotional power over the entire relationship. Same as he did with Lestat, which is such a great like through line of like Louis refuses to give these men what they want
Always.
and maintains his power.
Mm-hmm.
Good girl. And but yeah, I love their relationship. I want more of it in the same way that I want less of it. You know, but like there's also the production released pictures of their bedroom set as behind the scenes stuff, and there's just a lot of BDSM equipment in that room that you can't even you glimpse in the show, and then you see it again and you're it, like as a still image, and you're like, that's a dog bowl by the chair.
Oh
Oh my
my
god. Oh my
Like, that's
gosh.
a bowl of water resting on the floor.
It's normal. It's
And
normal.
I'm like, you guys do you. Like, this
Mhm.
is great as long as
Mhm.
it's great for everyone.
Mhm.
And it's just such a far cry from how Louis describes his sexual relationship with Lestat.
Mhm.
Not even the positions of power, but like Lestat was just happy to just like kiss Louis's tits in
Literally.
Missionary.
In
Like
Missionary, yeah.
like, and it's just like, and we ate that shit up with a spoon
He was just
instead.
happy to be there, okay, and be a part of it. He wants to be a part of it.
I'm really honored to be a part of this. Thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Mhm.
um
Oh, funny.
so anyways, I could talk years about Louis' sexual history with these men, but
Mhm.
and then also the thing that we learned in episode 3, that when he's attacking these men in the parks, they're well, in episode 5 we learned that he has consummated every 128 boys that he brought back to the apartment. So he had sex with all the 128 boys that he killed, according to Armand.
Mhm.
And then when he was in the parks in Paris and attacked the man that he thought was Lestat and like was like hooking up with him in the park, like he had bites on his shoulder blades. And I'm like, there's only a couple of positions.
That this is possible in Louis.
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 And I could talk for hours about this man. So let's go back to the lesbians because I love them.
Lesbians. I love them.
Yeah.
Man.
I it I was on my way to liking Claudia because I feel like slowly, yeah, I was liking her, and like felt bad for her, pitied her, was sad for her. Obviously, throughout,
Yeah.
this whole season, there's been a lot of emotions. But like I actually was like, dang, like you found someone, you've been searching for like acceptance, and ironically it's with this human woman
Yeah.
who is also an outcast like you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, dang, like, all right, this is great, I'm so happy for you. Like, still don't
Yeah.
really like her, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
And
like she was growing alongside of Louis instead of with him. Like
yes,
they were gonna not need each other in that way.
I
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I actually really respected, where she was finally just like, I chose this for myself. Like, I am
Mhm.
taking what I want, because it was like after all these years, she finally realized, like, like we said, like Lestat was yours, or you had
Mm-hmm.
Lestat had you, whatever, and then
However you want
now
to phrase it.
Armand had you. Like, she
Yeah.
always just realized that like Louis was never hers. She was never Louis. Like in that family loving way. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
they always had, some type of bond, but she was just like, I need you have your person and I need my person. And that's the only way I'm going to be happy, because we're not making each other happy. And so I was happy that she went out and got that and found that. And for
Yeah.
about 30 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes, however,
Yeah.
in their time,
Yeah.
she was happy. And
Well, and not to skip to the end of the episode necessarily, because we can always walk it back, but like there's something very like strange and domestic about that dinner at the cafe. And like there's also, I got questions about Claudia thanking Armand for not treating her like a child. And I was like, that actually doesn't ring true.
Because he put you in a freaking baby costume.
Exactly.
Yeah, but let's come back to that later, I guess, once we've examined how many lies Armand has told. But like, but they're so domestic and happy. And if you remember, the end of episode 1, Lestat says, "I'm merely waiting for you to be happy." And it's like the first time that Louis is like happy and settled, is like Claudia's he's in a good place with Armand. Claudia has her person. They're, it's happy and domestic, and 30 seconds later Lestat's back.
Yeah,
And I
of
just
course,
thought
yeah.
And of course it's not, we'll learn more about why he's back, what the intention is and all that stuff, and of course, like, it's Armand who sells them out at the cafe, but like, in general, what brilliant writing. Like, I'm merely waiting for you
Chef's
to be
kiss.
happy, and the second that you see that maybe everything's gonna be okay.
It's so
Oh,
terrible.
these assholes. Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It made me feel bad for
Yeah.
Claudia, because like she's never been happy. Like, she's never
Yeah.
gotten to have anything and be happy, and it's always fucked up by Lestat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, but
Yeah.
you're right. That scene was amazing.
Yeah. So the cafe scene does so many things, because I feel like, okay, so there's still stuff in this season specifically that I don't understand what the writing is doing, and I wonder if they're like I don't understand the dialogue, the purpose of things, and like I'm wondering if they're purposefully leading us into interesting directions, or like, but do you ever do that where like you're like, is my brain working too hard, or are these words just words? And like the scene that I can't figure out is that Louis is when Louis having his, I call it his postpartum moment, where he's he's turned Madeline into the vampire, and he's trying to bleed himself out of all of Madeline's blood after they left, and when Armand finds him, and like he's so depressed and empty, and you could liken it to postpartum depression, but he's like, I thought I would feel this, but I did not care. I said goodbye to Claudia and I did not care. And I'm still trying to figure out I'm still trying to figure that out, because what I like to think is like such a heavy Louis and Lestat shipper is that, like, by making a fledgling, he could only think of Lestat and the relationship that he has to his maker, and he has this stranger that he has this, similar connection to, and so he can't help but think of Lestat. And and maybe even how thinking of Lestat and Claudia, like this stranger that Lestat had no connection to and was forced to make, so it's like but it's the I did not care aspect, and the very like the emptiness that he's feeling there, just really interesting to me, and I want to know more. And then there's the through line of that is then seeing Madeline as a vampire, and she and Louis are trying to connect or talking about how they're not, it's like I can feel you and but but like and I feel like the whole time he's just thinking of Lestat. Like I can, is this what Lestat felt for me the whole time? Or like why doesn't this feel like Lestat? Or why does this feel like Lestat? Like I just
But
love.
probably different because I
Yeah.
wasn't in love with him, or
Yeah.
or I was in love with him but not her, or
Yeah.
yeah.
The extra connection. I love those beats, and I feel like I'm still trying to tease them apart. Like I feel like the writing's too elevated for me.
I think you're on the right path because same thing. I was like, why does he not, like, what happened to make him not care about Claudia? That was the biggest thing, because she was always, well, I say number one, but she was always number two in his life.
Yeah.
And and the only thing is, like you said, is he had just changed Madeline. And so he probably was like, all he can think of is Madeline, but then you're right. It must be something else, must also be coming up, and it probably has to be Lestat.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing. He's probably juggling between, like, I'm thinking of Lestat and then I'm thinking of Madeline, but Claudia's nowhere to be found.
Exactly.
Why am
Claudia's
I
not
not
in the equation now?
Yeah. Why is it now maybe Madeline's number two, or
Yeah.
Just tough.
That's what's so great about this writing throughout the whole show, though, is that I feel like when you're watching, especially like the first time, it's just like it seems so obvious whatever is going on. But then especially watching it a second time, there are so many layers to what's actually being said. And even like the note from earlier that we talked about, it's just like so much. It's so much deeper, I think, than you first think, or at least for me.
Yeah.
So it's great
it
writing.
gets richer on every rewatch, and like I just can't wait to know where they're going with season 3, and then be able to go back and watch, like, and see what was laid in, and what we were right about, hypothesizing and things. Yeah, there's the cafe scene. If you notice, Armand kisses Judas kisses Jesus,
I was just
and
going to
then
say,
and
Judas
then
kisses
I was
betrays
gonna
him.
say that.
It's so good. And there's, I don't think I sent it to you, Chanel, because I knew you hadn't seen it yet, but the painting, the Renaissance painting of Judas kissing Jesus, like the very, it's not Da Vinci, but it's like, it's someone very important. It hangs on the wall in Armand and Louis' bedroom. And like I think Louis like, we're gonna hang this right here.
forever.
Yeah.
We're gonna look at it every day.
Yeah.
Literally, I was thinking that. I was like, I just took a nap, and I was like, I woke up from my nap and I was like, he was like Judas. I was like, he kissed him just like Judas. I was like, how biblical. It was so terrible. Like they're having this last supper, and he goes and kisses him and then walks away and can't even look at him while it's happening. It's, I was like, what a awful, biblical, terrible thing to happen. And then he feels like the ultimate, like, betrayer, because I'm sure he didn't want to do that, but was kind of put in a hard place.
Well, and as Louis says, it's like it's like the coven said, you have to choose Louis or the coven, and he chose. And he initially told Louis that he chose Louis, but when he chose the coven, it was like a great, now you have to, we have to, we have to punish them, we have to, have a trial. It's so, the other thing that I love hate about that cafe scene, I guess I'll never stop talking about it, but is that the lines of Madeline being like, I feel you, Louis, and I feel your love for Claudia, and I feel your love for Armand. Yes, he does love you. Why don't you want him to know how that you love him? And it's and and it's like as a loose dot shipper, you're like, ah, no.
No.
You know, you're like, ah, no, no, he doesn't love him. But like I think no matter which way you slice it, that's a fascinating moment because Armand has well, I mean, like Louis was saying I love you to Armand in episode 4. Like he had never said those words to Lestat, and we never actually see him say those words to Claudia. So highly possible he never said them. So like the fact that he's throwing around I love yous to Armand in episode 4 is fascinating. Um, and
Love of
then
his life.
yeah, love of his life. And then
He's so
Madeline,
happy.
I'm so fucking happy. Um,
Tears.
but and then Madeline, you know, tells Armand, yes, he loves you. Why don't you want him to know that you love him? You know, and it's like, and it's so interesting because Armand hears all of that and still continues with the betrayal. So that's a very fascinating just aspect of it, you know, that there was like a love confession or something, you know, with it. Um, puppies.
No, it's
Harry!
Mama. No, fucking
Chanel! She loves that dog. Don't let her fool you.
Oh, I couldn't tell if it was like Stacy's mic or something, but yeah.
I thought it was Stacy at first. So I'm like, no, that sounds like Harry.
Oh,
it's Harry. It's my parents' dog.
yeah.
Um, okay, there was one other thing that I wanted to talk. Okay, so in present time,
Mm-hmm.
talking with Louis and Armand, and we find out that he asked Armand to erase his memories, which
At
was
the San Francisco, yeah.
a big shock to everyone.
Well, and
And
it's so funny because like I feel like again you're in Daniel Malloy's head where you're like, I'm not sure I believe it, but here we are. You know, you're just like, I don't know, Louis buying it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he said they ripped out Claudia's diary entries together.
Together, yeah.
That was the
Which
other
Louis
thing.
doesn't deny. He never denies that they did it together, only that top of this season he has to ask for the pages back. So like he doesn't have access to it, which is fascinating. Like, you know, even if they made the decision together, Armand still holds the power of the diaries. Yeah, it's such a I that present day, well, and then also Armand like talking to Daniel about like I, you know, and Daniel being like, I don't forgive you for for, you know, for what you did to me. And it's like I love Daniel because you're like, Daniel, calm down. This is a vampire marriage and you're gonna get killed.
Like Daniel don't care. He's going in. He doesn't
Yeah,
care.
he's the best.
My man.
Yeah.
He's
Man,
so
what
funny.
did you make of it, Chanel? Do you think Louis asked for them to be erased, or like what's your take? Well, now that having seen through the end of episode 6, what is your take on Armand, on Louis and Armand's relationship and why
It's
it's still
so
happening?
funny. It's so funny because literally the whole episode, I was like, I I think it was literally right before the dinner scene, the cafe
Yeah.
scene. I said to myself, I'm like, I don't care. I still love Armand. That's what I literally said. And then that scene happened. And I was like, I just started laughing at that scene. I was like, oh my goodness, what the hell?
Yeah.
But I still really love Armand. I don't know, like Louis is my boy. I still
Yeah.
love Armand, but I love Lestat too. So I'm
Yeah.
never gonna be sad to have Lestat back.
Yeah.
But I think Louis is so emotional and so he probably, I mean, that was 3 days after
Mm-hmm.
his attempted suicide. I think he probably wasn't in a good place and was like, you know what? He's like, he's probably like, I can't even think about this anymore. I don't want to do this. Like, I
Yeah.
just want these memories out of my head. Can you just take them? Like, I could
Yeah.
see him saying that, doing that, and
Yeah. I can
being like,
see it exactly. Like I
yeah,
can see it happening exactly as Armand said it did.
yes. Now,
But yeah,
him doing it to Daniel, he was just like, "You're a human. Like you,
you'll get over it.
you're doing drugs."
You have 50 years ahead of you. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. He was just like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, we weren't gonna expose ourselves,
Yeah.
being vampires." And so I like that he
Yeah.
had no regrets about
He's
Daniel.
like, fine,
Sorry.
Fine.
yeah. I also love, I mean, it's very like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind of them to be like, I don't want this in my head anymore. Take it from me. There's
Yeah.
there's it also calls into question like how many times has Armand done this?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
then like what if they were all Louis at Louis's request? What if they're not? What if there's
Mhm.
some confusion about why the Fred Stein photographs are in the
Mhm.
album because we've lost memories of why
Mhm.
they're in the album, and it's like, and but like there's this excellent fanfic that like it's technically Louis and Lestat, but like Lestat's not in it. It's the years of Armand and Louis, and like the like it's like a 5 and 1. The like 5 times Louis asked Armand to take his memories and 1 time he didn't, type thing.
Mhm.
And it's just a very interesting, and what I love is that the author did like scenes that are not actually in the show that Louis never like talked about in the show. So it's like
But
these,
happened or something.
yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
these could all be things because they're not being talked about in the
Mhm.
interview with the vampire. And
Oh.
like it's just really well done because a lot of it's from Armand's POV, but like it's like Louis like saying why he needs it taken out, and and it's just like, oh, it's really great because Armand
Mhm.
knows that it's not him. Lestat's the one, so it's like it's
Mhm.
and he's saying yes because it's like maybe there's a better chance of him forgetting about Lestat. So
Dang. Dang.
yeah, but it's a really
Yeah.
good fic. I shall send it out.
I was saying,
I was
I
gonna
need some of these fanfics, okay? Because
Yeah,
I need something
I
to
have my curated list. I have my bookmarks. So yeah, I
send
will
them.
yeah. The writers are good. Um
Mhm.
There are some
Yeah.
very good ones out there I've come
yeah.
across.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um
But yeah.
the I feel like, okay, what else? That's the thing about this episode is that it feels
Oh,
um
okay. I have something
yeah.
else I want to talk about to
Yeah.
touch on. So Claudia and Louis ask Armand to change Madeline, and so you're like, you think he's gonna do it. He has that conversation with him, and he says no. But
Yeah.
the reason he says no is because he's never changed anyone.
Yeah.
I thought that was very interesting. Like,
He's like 500 years old at this time. Back then, like 450 or 400,
yeah.
400 or something. And like, yeah, isn't that just he? And that's true to the books in terms of like he had an aversion to it in terms of like feeling like he was damning someone, and also like there's a lot of responsibility in the books on the older vampires, like if you're an older vampire sharing your blood, that means you're passing down very strong blood. And especially if you've never made a vampire, you're passing down like undiluted
Mhm.
blood, whatever. Um, and so, which is another fun thing about like why Louis is weaker, not just because of his diet, but because Lestat like went and made a ton of vampires at first. So
Mhm.
So he, it's like it got like diluted down in a way, and really explains why Claudia is very weak on top of being a child, is like, she got very diluted blood. But
I
yeah,
think it
so
speaks to their characters. Like that makes sense. Cause before you said that, I think it was alluded to in the show that Lestat had made a bunch of vampires too and stuff, or at least
yeah,
a
he had
few.
a early boyfriend at least, yeah.
Yeah. And but I just from again what we know of Lestat, and even just from Armand's point of view, right? When he was in Paris early on, he was very much in love with the vampire lifestyle and living carefree and everything. So it makes sense for that. Sure, he probably changed all of his
Yeah,
boyfriends
right.
or, whoever he was, his friends or whatever the
Yeah.
heck.
He's
And
like, why should I be alone? Yeah.
yeah.
My
Mon
soulmate.
Dieu. Yeah.
He's like, yes, I love this baker. He makes the best bread.
He
Whatever.
bakes bread for me all night long. I mean, honestly, like, I know it's wrong, but that would be me as a vampire. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna create a posse, and
Yeah.
like, you get eternal life. All I need to get out of it is like, you need to
Some
come
good
over and like,
shoes.
yeah, I need the fashion.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but then again, it makes sense that Armand is like not only the way that he was like lived in his human life, but brought into the vampire world, right? Just
Yeah.
not very great. And then it seemed very rigid and by the book
Yeah.
in his coven leadership. So he's right. Not only would he be like, oh, I can't do this, but I'm also restricting myself. And again, if he's like, why would I damn anyone else to this life? Like
Yeah.
it very much is in line with kind of how they live, their
Yeah.
their ideals on life. And so yeah, I don't know why it was a shock, but it was a shock. Like to be like, oh dang, he's never
I
turned
know.
anyone.
Yeah.
And
Well, Daniel's shocked too. Daniel's like, you what? Yeah. Yeah. I
mhm,
love when Daniel gets to speak for the audience. You're just like,
yes.
It's the
should I be
best.
confused? And it's like, oh, Daniel's confused. Thank God. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, if he's
We all should be
confused, yeah,
confused.
Yeah.
it's all understood.
Yeah.
yes, it's so funny. It's so
No,
funny.
and I think that's so interesting. It's like you understand why Armand said no, and then like Louis is still mad at him all these years later for even like entertaining the idea if he knew he was going to say no. But like then you watch the conversation with Madeline and you know that he was kind of trying to talk her out of it, or like test her, and like figure out like, these are the realities, are you prepared for it?
Mhm.
Um, so it's just really interesting. Like I see Armand's perspective fine, and but it is funny
Yeah,
that Louis is still mad about it.
I
Always be
know.
mad. Yeah.
I know. And again, it speaks to Louis, who would do anything for Claudia, and who was like,
Yeah.
because I don't think he would ever turn anyone, but he was like,
Yeah.
this is um, what she really wants, what she really needs, and so I'm going to do that, even though he didn't know the implication of what
Yeah.
would happen with him. The other thing is, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Something happened. Dang it. Something
Madeline.
I
Yeah.
know.
Madeline and Armand. Yeah.
Oh, when he was changing her, when he
Hmm.
was changing Madeline. Okay, we'll come back to
That
it.
was
Sorry.
such a gorgeous scene.
Mhm.
And I love that like Claudia got to be a part of it, and
Yes.
like Louis has that great line in season one of like thinking he should explain things to Claudia and say like, should I say all vampires are born out of trauma? And it's like, Madeline was, that wasn't trauma at all. That was choice, and it was beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, so I love that.
Yeah.
I I love I love this show that you've been like sitting for like 5 episodes being like, I miss Lestat.
Mhm.
And you've been like a little like Louis, where you're like, you're like, God, I wouldn't be able to kick the vision of my dead husband either. Like this, he's entertaining and he's sexy as hell. And like, and it's like, and it's like this, like, you're like, keep hallucinate. Don't say goodbye to the hallucination, Louis, please. We miss him, and it's like, and then like he was only off-screen dialogue last episode. And then he's not a part of this episode at all until the end, and you're like, that's my man.
It's amazing though.
It's like it's just like such joy, it's just crazy the emotion that they can like wrench out of you with just like the seeing the back of his head and like and being like
Just like full body chills. Like when I
Yeah.
saw just like
yeah.
Gosh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm so excited because it is all three of them. They're all gonna be together,
Yeah.
and I'm so excited to see the chaos. It's so good.
It's a wild ride. Yeah. You only have 2 episodes left.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
2 episodes.
I know.
I do want to say one thing real fast. I meant to say it just keeps coming back to the cafe scene because
I
it's
could talk
just
about it for hours. Yeah.
do you remember those memes or those TikToks? And it was like it would be like some scene of a show and they just be like, and then it ends and they like cut it off before the climax or something terrible happens. That's how I feel about the cafe scene, that like the second time watch him, like I'm just gonna stop. I'm just gonna stop it at a certain point, and then that's just how the whole show ends for me. That's just it. That's the whole show.
That's all. Yeah.
And I'd be happy. And it's like it's weird watching the second time because I know it's happening, but I don't want it to be true.
It's like even worse almost the second time.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I love there's this great moment where Madeline is saying like, I can't hear your thoughts, and Louis explains to her like, oh, it's because I made you. But he starts to say the exact words that Lestat said to him, like 50 years ago or whatever, 40 years ago, and like he starts to say the architects of our creation mean to humble us, but he starts to say the architects of, and he like cuts himself off, and you see him and Armand like glance at each other real quick, and then Louis like backtracks and is like, I made you, that's just how it works. And it's like this glorious, like Lestat is still so present. And like I also, there's a lot of theories on like just the fact that like whatever resolve Armand might have been like weak on, like strengthened in that moment. That like Louis, we're having a conversation that has nothing to do with Lestat, and you can't keep quoting him. You can't help yourself from quoting him. And I'm like, yeah, it could be. Armand's like, yeah, this isn't that you don't love me. This isn't, no matter what Madeline says or feels. Which is another, someone brings up, like, she says right after that, I can feel that you love Armand. And it's like, well, but we were also just talking about Lestat a second ago, only Madeline doesn't know that. Like Armand and Louis know that we were talking about Lestat a second ago.
Yikes.
And it's like, and so that's like, I don't
wait, or does she say Armand, or does she say I know you love him?
She said him, but she does mean Armand. Like she, then when he gets up and kisses him on the cheek, Judas kiss, and goes to the door, she says, why don't you want him to know that you love him? Like she's still like trying to carry the convo. But
I do think it's intentional that she says him though, and not like, I know she's talking about Armand, but I feel like, and I could be wrong, I feel like the writing is intentional that she says him and not Armand.
Yeah. I don't like to, I think the people who love the ship of Louis and Armand, like, should cling to whatever moments they have, but for me, I'm just like, I just, it's not about Armand. Like, nothing is about Armand. So it's like, I think that's probably true, that like Louis, thought of Lestat and Armand caught him, and then immediately after he switches his wording around, and then Madeline's like, I feel your love.
Yeah.
And it's
Some
just
kind of
like,
love.
it's like, I think that's it. And I think that's also why Armand felt resolved to go through with it, because even as he's standing there looking unsure and like almost about to cry after the Judas kiss, and like is listening to them, Madeline's like, why don't you want him to know that you love him? And he's like, not everyone needs to know how I feel. But like, and it's like the camera's on Armand, and it's like, is it because he knows that this ain't about him? Like,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's
You
never
know.
about him, you know?
yeah. Anyways,
Dang.
those are all my notes on this episode.
I know.
I love
It's
it.
such a good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. I also love seeing Louis. I mean, it gets overshadowed by the face down in the coffin scene, but seeing the beginning of like his wealth, and like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like how he's like gonna start investing in properties, investing in paintings and artists, and then
Yeah.
like even joking about how, you know, he's gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna get a plane, I'll pilot it, you know, like you know, and you're just like, this good for you, boy, you know, like
Mhm.
so
Yeah. Yeah. I know. This is such a good episode. I can't wait. I'm watching
I
the
know.
next one tomorrow.
I know. If you
I'm
weren't
excited.
sleepy, I would be like, watch it now.
Yeah, I can't do it. I can't do it now.
And then we're
Yeah.
recording on Sunday, right? So we'll get to talk about it soon.
Yeah.
Midnight.
Is that still
That'll be
happening?
great.
Yes. Yeah. Woohoo. Yay.
Man. So
Thank
yeah,
you, Julie.
oh my God.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for rushing over to talk with us. I know it was a burden.
Oh gosh, I just hate discussing this show.
It's just like I could talk about, like, I just can't wait to talk about all of this again after everybody's watched
Oh, I know.
the
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
So
I might go through and listen to every episode of the podcast, and like and make
Oh
notes
my
on
God.
all the times that I said we'll have to talk about this later.
Yeah, make it now.
can't
Like,
wait.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
That's
it'll be good.
hilarious.
Perfect.
Yay.
All
Come
right.
back for the next episode.
Come back for
Soon.
episode 7. Yep.
It's gonna get wild.